Welcome to our video series on presentation skills. In this video, we'll talk about setting the stage for your presentation, essentially getting started. So in this video, we'll address common fears associated with giving presentations, as many people are anxious or afraid of public speaking. The role of preparation and how important it is to reducing anxiety and knowing your material. The importance of time as a primary consideration for putting together and managing your presentation. And the need to consider your audience, who you're presenting to and for. And lastly, steps for organizing your presentation. So let's start by acknowledging a common fear. Each year there's a national poll, and typically when asked, what are you afraid of? The number one fear people report is glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. Also, the typical answer for the number two fear is death. It's pretty striking that people would say they're more afraid of speaking in public than death. So why are people so afraid? Well, there could be lots of reasons. First, they might have had bad presentation experiences in the past. Perhaps it didn't go well, they didn't feel like they were effective, maybe they remember being embarrassed or overly anxious. It could be they don't have a great deal of experience with presentations, so it's new, they don't know what to expect, they don't have a great deal of confidence. Maybe they just feel self-conscious about speaking to a group or being up in front of other people, being the center of attention, and being unprepared, or at least feeling unprepared, often leads to fear. And lastly, we do have a fight or flight response when we're in a situation that could be anxiety-provoking. So there are ways to reduce the anxiety, and preparation really is the best prevention. So becoming familiar with your topic is one of the best forms of preparation. And the design, how you do it, and what you do in your presentation, if it's clear, if it's easy to follow, if you're familiar with the presentation itself, that also is great in terms of preparation. You can build confidence, and that's done through practice, reflection, thinking about how you've designed the presentation, and revising the presentation to make it flow better, to make it more memorable to you, and choosing effective strategies for when those fight or flight feelings or urges might come up before or during a presentation. So let's start with selecting your general topic. One of the first guidelines is choosing something that's truly interesting to you. If you do, you'll want to investigate it thoroughly, you'll be able to relate experiences to it, and you'll be able to present with enthusiasm, which will draw in your audience. Start by doing an initial search for related sources. You want to make sure you have enough information on this topic before you get too far along down the road. When you have selected your basic topic and you have some ideas, give an elevator speech about your presentation. That means just a short summary to somebody you know about why you've selected the topic, how the topic will fulfill the course assignment, what you likely want to share about the topic, the things that are most interesting to you or most relevant, but also what you likely won't want to share about the topic, things that aren't interesting to you, not relevant, or that you might not have time for. Then consider your audience. So who is your audience? Who are you presenting to or for? And how do you make the topic relevant to them, or how might it already be relevant to them? And this is important because some people in the audience might be experts. They know a great deal about the topic. They might be novices. The topic is brand new or relatively new to them. And that will guide the type of language that you use and the foundation of knowledge that they may or may not need to benefit from your presentation. So experts, for example, expect jargon. Jargon are words that are known within a certain discipline or field. Novices, those that are new, they might become confused by jargon, words that they're just not familiar with because they don't know a great deal about the topic or the discipline. So you want to be prepared to DYA for a mixed audience. And what that means is define your acronym. An acronym is typically letters that stand for a number of words that the audience, if they're familiar with the topic, they might know. So for example, we might say that EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency, but EPA could mean other things. So you want to make sure that the language is understood by everyone in the audience so they don't get confused. Time is extremely important in terms of your initial consideration as well as a consideration throughout the development and delivery of your presentation. So you want to know exactly how much time that you have and how many topics you're going to need to cover in order for it to be an effective presentation. This also means how long can you spend or should you spend on each of the main ideas or topics, and you want to be thinking about if there's time to incorporate some sort of engagement of the audience. It could be an activity, it could be a poll, or some other form of audience participation. If you only have a short amount of time, that likely is not doable. If it's a longer presentation, that could be an effective way of drawing the audience in and making it more memorable and meaningful to them. So, you want to prioritize your main points. There can be lots of information you can fit into a presentation, but think of it this way. We'll start with a story. Somebody walks up to a podium and they take out a jar filled with rocks and ask the audience, does it look full? By a show of hands, most people in the audience think, that looks pretty full. Then the person at the podium takes out a jar of pebbles, pours it in, fills in the space in between the big rocks, then asks, is this full? Most people still say yes. Some people start questioning whether it's truly full. The presenter takes out a jar of sand, pours it in, the grains of sand fill in between the pebbles. How about now? Is it full? Lastly, the presenter takes out a small jar of water and pours it in, filling it to the brim. And the presenter asks, what is the point of this? Now, for many people, they'd say, the point is you can always fit in more. However, when we're talking about presentations, a presenter would likely say, no, that's not the point. The point is, if you don't put in your big rocks first, you'll never fit them in. So with a presentation, if you fill it with too many details, small ideas, stories, you might never get to the most important points of your presentation. So when you think about this, you want to be able to refine your topic to get those big rocks in. So in the refinement process, consider how you've got your big rocks, you also have your pebbles, your sand, and your water. Your big rocks are those main ideas, and those are the big takeaways that your audience needs or expects. And you want to include some essential details about each of those main ideas. The pebbles, more evidence to support those ideas or claims, and you might provide applications of the idea or examples to clarify, but also to make it meaningful and relevant to your audience. And then, if you have time, fill in the gaps with interesting stories, maybe some personal examples that you have, and definitely include ways to learn more about a topic, because you will never cover all of the information of whatever that topic is for your presentation. So then it's time to get organized. Consider organization as creating an outline or a map. So you want to begin with those big rocks. How many of them are you going to include? What order are you going to have them in? What are the most significant points that you need to cover for each of those topics? Those might be, again, the pebbles. More pebbles might be summarizing key information from the sources that you've selected to provide support and more information regarding your main ideas. You want to look for connections between the different ideas, those big rocks, the pebbles, but also if you have several information sources, look for ways to connect them right from the beginning of the organization part of your presentation. And then, is there more information or connections that you can make? You can fill it in with that sand and water. There are a number of different tools you can use for organizing your presentation. You can use what would be considered a traditional outline approach. Each of your main points followed by the subpoints and even the smaller points under each. You could create a mind map where you start with the main idea, branch out to your bigger ideas, and then connect the smaller ideas or supporting evidence. You also could use a tried and true approach of writing the big ideas and smaller ideas on note cards and using them to put your ideas in the order that you'd like to present. It can be very convenient in terms of spreading them out on a table and quickly moving them around. But this can be done with any of these organizational tools. Now that we've covered setting the stage for an effective presentation, consider taking the next steps. In our video series, we have a video on designing your presentation, including how to select your cues and visual aids, how to consider using multimedia sources, the pros and cons of using note cards during the presentation, creating slide decks, which could be PowerPoint, Google Slides, Keynotes, or other, and supplementing your presentation with handouts or other materials for your audience. Another presentation is on the actual delivery. How and why to practice, considerations if you're doing a group presentation, how to stay calm when presenting, how to draw your audience in with participation opportunities, and how to end with purpose. And there's always an opportunity to continue developing your skills as a presenter. That's it for now. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you found it helpful and that you watch the other videos in our series on presentations.